That's okay.
I'm
No
recording
worries.
now. That part just
That's okay.
recorded.
Well, I really appreciated everybody's answers. So we're going to start on our mats in a seated position. It might help to have, you don't have to, but it might help to have like a rolled up little blanket or a towel to sit under your bum, because sometimes it's kind of hard to sit cross-legged. At least for me it is. I need a little prop under my bum, and I'll kind of show you guys what that looks like. So if you just place the rolled mat or towel, you don't have to, but it just kind of helps your hips kind of rotate a little bit forward. I'll give you a second to get that set up. Great.
While people are getting that, I also forgot to mention that you can pin Silas's video if you want, which I would recommend is the best way to have this yoga experience. And in case you don't know how to do that, you just click the top right little 3 dots and you can click pin, and it should make his video the big one.
Great, yeah, and so as you're getting that, I'm just gonna also really talk about something really quickly too that I wanted to share, since this is our last time meeting for the season or the year. I guess the main thing that I kind of wanted to leave you with was that what we've been doing is just like the movement of yoga is really just like such a tiny little sliver, a piece of like what it truly means to practice yoga. I'm not going to get really deep into it, but I just wanted to share that there are like 8 limbs of yoga in the belief. So, and I'll just go over them really quickly with you guys, but just so that you know that just the movement or the physical, the asana, the practice that we're doing really is just a small fraction of it, and that really it's kind of this whole, it's a whole lifestyle, but really it is like a way of living and a way of showing up in the world. And for me, it's been, you know, like a lot of times the practice is not just so much about being on our mats, but it's about being able to bring that into like our own practice of like how we show up with others and relating with others, and our activism or our self-care. And so I think that also just like in our meditation practices. So I just want to encourage you to like look further into that. And you know, it's been really neat for me to kind of study that and learn. So the 8 limbs of yoga, I'm going to go over them very quickly. The one is the yamas, which are just basically like life principles to live by, and the niyamas, which are observances that you take. And there's a whole list of them. I'm not going to read them out to you guys, but basically they're just kind of codes of conduct in which to live, and a dedication to the practice of yoga, and knowing that it's also a spiritual practice as well. And then the third limb is the asana, which is the postures, which is what we're doing, going through the different physical acts of it. And that's what Western civilization, like at least in America, it's like when we think of yoga, that's what we think of, you know, people moving through these postures and doing these crazy whatever bends with their body, but really that's not really the most focused part of it. It's all in order to get us to basically samadhi, which is a state of like bliss. So the third one is asana. The fourth one is the pranayama, which is the breath control, which we've done a lot of in our classes, starting with some kind of breath control work. So either slowing the breath down or counting the breath in a certain way. It kind of helps us move in and starts kind of moving the energy inwards, and also gives us something, that monkey mind, since our minds are meant to think, it gives that monkey mind something to like think about, and it gives it something to focus on. So the breath control, and then the pratyahara, which is the withdrawing of senses. So just kind of the closing down and the slowing down of the day and the senses. And then there's dharana, which is a concentration, and dhyana, which is meditation. And then the end is samadhi. So you don't have to know any of those. I just kind of wanted to just kind of open that up for you guys, just so that you know that, hey, there's like 8 limbs of yoga. Go look it up. It's really interesting stuff to go look at. And there's your homework for the summer. So, all right. So starting in a seated position, with the towel or the bolster rolled up under your seat's bones, sitting with your legs crossed, if that feels good. Doesn't matter how you sit, but just sitting up in a nice kind of upright position. You want to be comfortable, letting the shoulders kind of roll back and down. So getting the shoulders out away from the ears. And kind of just finding the balance on those sit bones. So not sitting too far forward or too far back, but just kind of finding where are you balanced between both of the sit bones. If you need to just kind of shift back and forth. And then if it feels good to you, just kind of beginning to kind of withdraw the senses and closing the eyes if that feels great. Slowing down just a little bit and just arriving in the space. Feeling your body on the floor, feeling the support of what you're sitting on. Allowing the legs to be heavy. And just letting the rest of the day or the day before just kind of go. Putting that aside just for the next hour. You can pick it up when you go if you want to. Beginning to just become aware that you're breathing. Look at that. Like whether you're aware of it or not, you are breathing all day long. Your breath is the anchor point to the practice. So if you find your mind wandering tonight, bring it back to the breath, to the center. It's a great one to get you back into the practice. So just slowing down and just becoming aware of that breath, moving in and moving out, not trying to change it, just becoming aware of it. And then bringing a little bit more length to the breath. So just kind of elongating the breath, slowing it down a little bit. Bringing fullness to the breath. And starting the breath in the belly, begin by breathing into the belly and then breathing all the way up into the chest, filling that chest full of air, and then just exhaling everything out. One more just like that. Inhale through the belly, inhale into the chest, high, high up, bringing the breath high, holding at the top for a second, suspending it, and then exhaling out. And then if you'd like to, you can bring a little bit of a slight constriction to the back of the throat. So not a real tightness, but just a little bit of a constriction with the mouth closed, and you're breathing in through the nostrils, and it will kind of make an ocean sound, like a shh. So inhaling. And exhaling through the nose with the mouth closed still, and kind of ocean sound, a slight constriction of the breath. So it's slowing the breath down a little bit and also kind of making a slight ocean sound to it. Bringing your concentration to the breath. Couple more just like that. And if you'd like to set an intention for the class for yourself, just kind of come up with one word, boil it down to one word, and repeat that word to yourself 3 times, just as an affirmation, as a declaration of something that you want to get out of this practice, the reason that you showed up to your mat today. And remembering to celebrate the small victories in our life. It's so easy to concentrate on the negative, and not to say that we don't honor that as well, but just knowing like that, to celebrate when we do accomplish things and the small victories that we do have, allowing ourselves to have those victories in that celebration. Great, and then fluttering the eyes open, staying inward here. We're staying seated here. You can bring the legs out in front of you, and we're gonna cross the right leg. So the right leg is gonna come kind of at a 90-degree angle. So the foot is not actually in towards the pelvis, it's a little bit far away. So it's gonna create a 90-degree angle. We're gonna sit forward on that bolster, so the hips are gonna kind of roll forward, and then we're gonna stack the left leg right on top. It's called fire log pose. Now my hips tend to be pretty tight. Maybe yours are too. Maybe your hips up here. No problem at all. Just wherever the legs sit. The knee doesn't have to sit onto the foot, but as if you were kind of knee to foot, foot to knee here. So it's in a kind of a stacked fire log pose. And then work on sitting up straight, or sitting up as if you had like a string pulling from the top of your head here. Great. And then allowing that left knee to kind of fall down. So we're working that hip. I can really feel that in my left hip here. So nice inhale. And then exhale, we're gonna walk the hands out in front of us, keeping the chest up and open. So instead of rounding the spine, don't allow the rounding of the spine. Keep the chest open, broad shoulders here. Okay, and really thinking about tilting that pelvis forward. That's going to get you the length here. Breathing into that. And then if you'd like to, allowing the body to come into a rolled position now. So now rolling the spine down if you'd like. Just take it as far as you'd like. If you want to stay up here, this is great too. This is definitely getting the activation in those hip flexors. Or you walk the hands out more. We're going to be here for a couple breaths. So allowing the hips to really open up. Seeing if you can keep the sit bones that you're sitting on rooted down to the floor, and as if the sacrum was reaching down to the ground to ground down. Maybe you sway your upper body back and forth slowly. Really reaching out through those fingertips. If you are folded over, reach out through those fingertips. Can you keep the fingertips active as if you were pulling yourself forward? And breathe. Great. Inhale, coming back up. Taking the hands behind you, placing the palms on the floor, uncross the legs, legs wide apart, knees bent, feet flat on the ground, and then slowly take the knees back and forth. Roll the shoulders back, and you're sitting back on your hands, so your hands are supporting you. Ooh, that feels so good. So just swooshing the knees back and forth, nice and slow, trying to get the full range of motion out of those hips, the internal and external rotation. Great, and then coming forward, we're gonna stack up for fire log on the other side. So right foot comes down first, about a 90-degree angle. I guess not really a 90-degree, but about that. And then right leg comes on top of left. So directly on top. So knee to foot, as equal as you can get it. And like I said, that right knee may float up. Great. You're working on opening the hips. Remembering to stay inward, moving with the breath, sitting up tall first, so get the length here. And then walk the hands out in front of you. Oh yeah. And notice if one side is different than the other. Do you happen to have a side that's a little bit tighter? Usually we do. Without judgment, just noticing what's up with our bodies. Yoga is this great inquiry to just learning about ourselves. And I think that that's what's been huge for me, just learning about how my body works. And yeah, it's just such an interesting, it's always changing too. You know, some days you're able to get into poses, and then other days, good luck. So just remembering to be patient with ourselves and where we're at. And please listen to your body tonight. If anything feels painful, back off. I'm not looking for pain. This is not a no pain, no gain. Inhale, crawling the hands back up to the top. Great. Leaning back again. Windshield wiper the knees. A little bit faster this time. Great. Coming back for us, just a cross-legged position. It does not matter which way, whichever way is more comfortable for you. Sitting up nice and tall, reaching out with the left hand, fingertips propped up, kind of like a little tripod right next to you. And then right arm comes up and overhead, reaching towards the back of the skull. So up and over, back of the skull, gently, very gently, look down to your right knee, and you're kind of gently coaxing your head down to your right knee, looking down. Should have a nice long stretch all the way down the left side of the neck, shoulder, and arm. And we're still actively reaching out with that left arm. Allowing that left shoulder to fall away from the ear. Ooh. If you've been on any computers lately or driving, you may be feeling this. Okay, now with about 10%, staying right where you are, with just about 10% of your power, press your skull into your hand, but don't allow it to move. So just kind of, you're pressing back into your hand. Nice deep breath in. On the exhale, you're going to just allow the head to fall down again. So you might just get a little bit more movement out of that. And then one more time, pressing back into the hand with the back of the skull. Big breath in. On the exhale, allowing the head to look down towards that right knee again. Great. Inhale, we're switching sides. So right arm comes down, tripods down to the ground right next to us. Left arm reaches up behind the skull, and then allowing the head to look down to the left knee. Keeping that right arm active. I can feel this all the way from my skull, all the way down into my middle finger. I don't know about you guys. Awesome. And then with about 10% of your power, pressing that skull back into the hand here. So this is called a muscle energy technique is what we're doing. We're kind of tricking the muscles into letting go more. So we're actively asking them to fire a little bit, and then exhale, allow that to go, allow the contraction to go. And then we get a little bit more length, a little bit more range of motion out of that. Perfect. Press into the hand again, just 10%. We're not trying to rack our necks or anything, right? This is just very gentle. Pressing in, inhale, exhale, allowing it to go down a little bit more. Perfect. Let that go. And then take the neck into big range of a big circle. However, when you go back, don't go back too far. You don't want to go back too far. That can hurt the cervical spine. So, but you can allow the head to just kind of go in big circles from shoulder to shoulder, big circles, nice. And see if you can make this go with your breath. Exhale, maybe forward. Inhale, you come back. Exhale forward, move with your breath, and then go the opposite way. Move the neck in the opposite direction now. And I know I've said before, it's about letting the breath move the practice. So start with either inhaling or exhaling and then move. Allow that to be the movement of it. Great. Okay, placing the hands on the knees here. We're gonna do some seated cat-cows. I'm actually gonna turn sideways just so you can see this a little bit more. So you're gonna be seated and your hands are on the knees. And then you're gonna arch the back. So you're kind of allowing the chest to kind of concave in, and then you're kind of looking, tucking the chin, looking down at your pelvis, and then inhaling, you're allowing the shoulders to drop back, broadening through the chest bone here, and then sitting forward on the sit bones again, right? And then exhaling, curling the spine back. And you can even hold on to your knees to really get a good stretch too out of that, right? And then inhaling, coming forward. So a couple of those. And if you want to do a little bit faster, no problem, up to you. But just move with your breath here. And keep the shoulders out of the ears, right? Because there's a tendency for them to want to creep up. See if when you come forward, can you tuck those shoulder blades in your back pocket, move them down? And then really when you curve down, curve all the way back, can you get that curvature in the upper spine here? A couple more. And then now move the torso in circles. So we're kind of doing the same thing, but you're going to do big circles. So staying seated, staying rooted, and then having the movement come from the upper body here. So you're going in big circles. Keep with that breath. Inhale forward, exhale back. Great. And then opposite way. Inhale forward, exhale back. Great. And then you can move the bolster. We're going to be done with the bolster now, or the blanket, whatever you were using to sit on. Coming into with the coming in so that you're a long ways on your mat right now. So if you were sitting the other way, sit so that you're long ways on your mat. Feet out in front of you, knees are bent. And then we're sitting up on our sit bones, and we're going to be a little bit behind the sit bones here. And if this feels like good and you're leaning back, so lean back a little bit so that the spine is straight. Right now, where you're at right now, if you want to put your hands on your knees, this is already a core engaging posture, which is what we're going for. If this feels challenging to you, stay here, okay? And then really thinking about bringing the navel back towards the spine. So either you're going to stay here, or if you'd like, maybe you take 1 foot up, or maybe you take 2 feet up for boat pose. So 2 feet up, and then you'd be reaching out, arms open, palms facing out. And then if you like, you can straighten the legs, which I can't quite get to yet. Tight hip flexors. So not falling too far back, but also not being too far up. And we're really engaging that core here. And smile. Couple more breaths, you got this. This is where you want to use the breath. Use the breath. Concentrate on the breath here. If you're shaking, great. And exhale, come down to the back. Oh, that should feel so good. Place the feet flat on the ground. Knees are bent. Windshield wiper the knees back and forth a little bit. Oh, that feels so good. Place the right foot down on the ground. Left leg is going to come up. We're going for the figure 4 stretch, which I know we've done a lot in our classes. So I'm not going to cue too much, but the left foot's going to go on that right knee. And then you're going to bring that whole package in towards yourself. So bring the whole thing in towards your chest. Keep the shoulders grounded onto the ground. So don't be rounding up. Keep the shoulders grounded to the ground, reaching through that little triangle that you made, and then clasping the back of the leg or the front of the shin on the right, on your right leg. And then bringing everything in towards you, keeping that left foot flexed, meaning keeping the toes reaching towards the shin is what I mean by flex. That'll protect that left knee. Breathe here. One more big breath. Exhale, bring everything down to the ground. Windshield wiper the legs, or knees are still bent, sorry. With the feet flat on the ground. Windshield wiper the legs. Ground through the left leg. Right foot comes on top of left knee here. And then bringing everything in towards you. So opposite side. Reaching through that little pocket, the little window you made, clasping the right or the left back of the leg. And bring it in towards you. Relaxing the whole spine. Shoulders soft, face soft, jaw slack. Exhale, let everything down, and then bring both knees into the chest. Give yourself a hug. Thank yourself for showing up. Thank yourself for getting here. I have no idea the challenges that you have to go to get here. I have no idea what it took you to show up here. Only you know that. So give yourself the credit that you made it here. It's not easy. Life is not easy. And then rolling back and forth. So remember, only round things roll. So keeping the spine nice and rounded, rolling back and forth if that feels good to you. Ooh, yeah. And then we're going to come and meet in a tabletop position. So however you want to get there, to a tabletop position. Bring the hands a little bit closer than you usually would. Fingers, tips pointing out away. And knees are right under the hips here, about hip width apart, right? Hands are a little closer than we usually would be in a tabletop position. And then we're rocking back and forth to open up those wrists a little bit. Taking care of your wrists. Going in circles. Remember to keep breathing, even in simple poses like this. How can you bring the concentration? How can you bring the inwardness of this? And how can you keep your mind on track here? Tapping back into that breath again. Great, flip the hands over so that the palms are facing up and fingertips are facing towards your knees now. Same position still. Be gentle with this one. And then rock back, sitting back onto your feet again and back and forth. So it might just be much less of a movement here. There's not quite as much range of motion in the wrist going this way. And then swoosh back and forth, side to side. Keep on the back of the hands, but turn the fingertips in towards each other now. And then just go side to side. I'm always surprised by how much tension is in my forearms, but I do massage for a living, so I guess I shouldn't be. Perfect. And then we're coming up for a tabletop position. If you want, actually, you know what? Come back and sit back on your feet for a minute and give your wrists a little roll out, actually. Roll those wrists out. Shake it out. Great, and okay, now coming back up to a tabletop position, we're gonna work into some cat and cow. So toes can be curled under or not. I like to have my toes curled under. Make sure that your hips are right over your knees and that your shoulders are right over your hands here. Hands are spread wide. That's gonna support the wrist. And then remembering, like I've said before, bring the thumbs in a little bit towards that pointer finger, right? So the fingers are spread really wide and then the thumb is brought in just a little bit and then you're really pressing into that pointer finger and the thumb. And that's gonna help the wrist from dumping and injuring yourself. So just make sure you always wanna set your base up first before you go into getting into more complicated poses, because this will really help protect you. Great, cat-cow, inhaling, allowing the belly to drop, kind of like what we were doing in that seated position. Broad through the collarbones, head looks up, exhale, bring the belly in towards the spine, round, tucking even the chin to look in between your legs. Inhale, drop down, arcing the spine each way. So flexing the spine and then extending the spine. Maybe you do some big circles. Moving with the breath. Great, take the knees wide, uncurl the toes, sit back and reach out with the hands. Sit back all the way back on your hands. If you'd like to, bring your head to the floor here. This is child's position, a great resting pose at any time. If you feel like you need to take a break, come back here. Really good grounding pose. Take a couple breaths here. Maybe even exhale out of the mouth, like an audible inhale and then audible out through the mouth. Nobody else is there. Just let it go wild. Let the day go. One more breath here. Inhale, shifting up to the knees again for a tabletop position. Take a second to get set. You know where we're going, up to downward facing dog. So you're going to spread the fingers wide, get that base set, curl the toes under, keep the knees bent, and then send the hips high up to the room. So that's where I start with, sending the hips high to the room, and then pressing back, allowing the head to kind of just come right between your arms here. So the ears are kind of right in line with your arms. Head should just be kind of held soft. So you could shake it yes, and you could shake it no. Knees, keep the knees as bent as you want to, and then pedal out the feet maybe. Bending each knee and straightening the other, vice versa. Bring some movement here. And then once you find some movement, find the stillness in this, right? And engaging the belly to really bring the chest towards the thighs. And we're working towards allowing the heels to drop towards the floor. Eventually, someday, maybe the heels will eventually touch the floor. And notice how different, check it out now. Look where your heels are now. And then let's check it out at the end of practice and see where your heels are. Sometimes I can hardly reach the ground, and then by the end of practice, my heels are like flat on the ground. So that's pretty cool. 2 more breaths here. Inhale, bend the knees a lot. So bend the knees, potential energy as if you were gonna spring forward. The hands are still planted on the ground. And then you're gonna walk the feet nice and slowly up to meet the hands. Take a wide stance here. So even wider than your hips here. Toes are pointed forward. So make sure that the toes are pointed forward. There's a tendency for them to wanna go out laterally. So have the toes pointed forward. We're forward folding here with a lot of bend in the knee. So allow the upper body to just drape over the quads here. And then taking your pointer finger and your middle finger, like 2 little claws, you're gonna take the pointer finger and the middle finger, and you're gonna clasp around the big toe. So under the big toe on both sides, okay? So you're just kind of wrapping your fingers around the big toe here. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but just trust yourself that you're doing the right thing. So you're clasping in between, you're clasping around the big toe, and then that's gonna give you a little bit of anchorage point to pull down. And remember, you can bend the knees as much as you want here, okay? So don't feel like you have to have your legs straight to be able to reach your toes. So bend the knees as much as you want, clasp the fingers around, and then start playing around with straightening the legs a little bit if you'd like to. And then you can maybe even give a little pull with the hands to allow your body to come down even a little bit more. Keeping the fingers where they are, you're gonna inhale and lean a little bit more forward on the balls of the feet and go for a flat back position. So the legs are still as straight as possible. The fingers are wrapped around the toe, and we're going for flat back position, and then exhale the forward fold, okay? So the fingers are they're not moving at all, but they're just kind of helping you get a little bit of anchorage or leverage here. So inhaling, flat back, exhaling, forward fold. Couple of those. Allow the head to hang. Shake it yes or no. One more, inhale, flat back, exhale, forward fold. Great, keep the knees, unhook the hands, keep the knees bent, really bent, and then stand up nice and slow, one vertebra at a time till you're standing up. Bring the feet together for mountain pose. So feet are together, toes are pointed forward, nice and tall spine, hands and palms facing out and to the side of us. And then think about tucking the chin just a little bit. I know kind of a weird thing to think about, but we have the tendency to jet our heads forward. So can you just tuck the chin back a little bit as if you were pressing your skull against a wall behind you here. And then take a second to feel your feet on the ground. And can you kind of find a little bit more balance in how you're standing? Can you stand on all four corners of your feet equally? How can you stand on your feet more equally? And then inhale, reaching up to the sky. Allow the shoulders to go away from the ears. Exhale, we're gonna forward fold. So swan dive down, forward fold, as far as you wanna take it. Inhale, we're gonna go for that flat back position. You can put the hands on the shins now or on the ground, either way. Just nice flat back. You're reaching the spine out away from the hips, basically. And then exhale, you're gonna bend the knees a lot, place the hands on the ground because you're gonna get ready. So the fingertips are spread, your ball of potential energy here. And then you're gonna send the feet way back, take a big step back, big step back. We're coming into plank pose or modified plank, drop the knees right away. Either one's great. We're working on the core here. Either way you go, either way you look at it. If you are up in the plank position, take a look and make sure that your heels are over your toes. So not behind or in front of them. They should be stacked right above it. And then that you're really pressing the ground away from you, pressing the ground strong away from you, zipped up in the core here. And breathe. Where does your mind go when it gets challenging? How different is it for you to sit in stillness than it is for you to sit in the tapas or the fire of this kind of pose, right? It brings up different things for us. Legs are firm, or we're down here. We're keeping our core and not allowing our back to arch or anything, right? Nice long line of energy. Great. If you haven't already, drop the knees. So knees come down first, and then keeping the elbows close to us as we go down. Don't allow the elbows to splay out. Elbows are close into the ribs. Knees, chest, chin. Come down to the ground. Take a second to set up. Look at your hands. Make sure they're right underneath your shoulders. Zip your legs up like a mermaid tail. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, and then roll the upper back and up. Just a little bit. Glutes are a little bit engaged too. And allow the shoulders to work their way down the back. One more breath here. Exhale, coming down, curling the toes under. Press back to all fours or up to downward facing dog. However you get there works perfectly. Up, back to downward facing dog. Check your hands. Are they spread wide? Are you pressing into the thumb and to the pointer finger? Is your chin and your head relaxed? Great. Lifting. So we're going to root down through that right foot. The left foot is going to come up, and it's going to come up, 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 with the toes still pointed down to the ground. And the hip, that left hip, there's a tendency for the left hip to want to open up. Can you keep the left hip down, but raise the left leg up? So you might not get as high, but see if you can keep the left hip down and level with the ground here. As if you had little balloons on the back of your heels, lifting you high, 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 engaging those glutes. You got this. One more breath here. Okay, inhale, shift forward on those right toes. So you're shifting the whole body forward. Left leg is gonna come up and tuck up as high as we can. So then we can set it down. If you need to clasp your left leg with your hand and to bring it up, great. However you get that left leg up, but you want the left foot right between the hands now. So we're in a giant lunge position here, okay? And then you're gonna lower that right knee down. So lower the right knee. Left knee should be right over that left foot. Hands are on the ground. If this feels like a lot on your knee, you can put that blanket or that towel right under your right knee if you have sensitive knees to protect it. Taking a breath here to set up. And as we're going to lift our hands off the ground, what I want you to think of as we start balancing, it's going to be kind of a more challenging pose, is really what is making contact with the ground and how can you utilize all of those spaces. So the knee, the toes of the right foot, and that whole left foot, right? Sending it up. So rooting from there and then sending the energy up. Inhale, bringing the arms up and overhead, if that feels good to you. Couple breaths here. That right hip, see if you can bring the right hip so that it's squaring or so it's moving as if somebody had, as if I had a string attached to this right hip and somebody was pulling it forward on me, right? That's kind of the action that right hip wants to have. Keeping the arms up overhead. Great. Clasp the left hand is going to clasp that right wrist, just gently. Clasping the right wrist, and then you're going to bend, side bend, just gently to the left, which is going to probably increase that psoas stretch even more. Breathing here. Exhale, frame the left foot, the front foot, and then step, curl those right toes under if they're not already, and lift that right leg up, okay? Keeping the hands down on the ground. And then all you're gonna do is you're just gonna shift on the ball of your right foot, the back foot, shift it and rotate so that the heel, of the left foot is in line with the arch of that right foot. So it's kind of facing, you guys can see this, I hope you can, but perpendicular. So I like to look down before I come up into it. And I'm like, okay, my front foot, my heel is in line, or pretty much should be in line with the arch of my right foot. Okay. And then we're going to come up for warrior two. And if you need to, you can use your knee or as a balance with your hands. So coming up, and we're keeping a bend in that front knee. So if this feels good for you, you can make your stance a little bit less wide, and that will be not as intense. And if you're feeling like you could use a little more intensity in the stretch, back right foot back a little bit. And then really bend deeply into that left knee. And see if you can keep energy, like a line of energy down that right leg, okay? So you're really pressing into the outer edge of that right foot. It's really pressing in round. That's gonna give you strength to kind of lift everything up. That right hip is acting as if it's trying to open up. It's opening out and up. So as if it was rotating like a little flap open. And then make sure to check the left knee, and can you see your big toes? Because there's a tendency for the knee to want to sickle in. Can you see your big toes? If not, really try to bring that left leg a little bit out, laterally out, okay? And breathe and enjoy. And then if you like, you can lift the arms up. This is a fierce pose. This is a strong pose. So find your strength here. Great. Inhale. We're keeping the legs just like they are, and you're just going to shift the upper body forward. So shifting as far forward as you can. Once you've reached your maximum, then allow that left arm to come down and rest on the knee here. And then right arm comes up and overhead. And breathing. And then if you'd like, you can look up, to that right hand. Inhale, coming back to the warrior two. Knee or legs stay the same, and then we're going to lean back a little bit. Left arm comes overhead, and there's a tendency to want to kind of undo the bend in the left knee. Can you lean back, but can you really bend into that left knee? Oh yeah. Keep it low, girl. Drop it low, girl. Okay, inhale, coming back to warrior two. And then you're gonna windshield wiper the arms down. So you're gonna windmill the arms back down to frame that front foot. Rotate the back foot back to a lunge position. And then you're gonna step that left foot back to meet the right. So we're back in a plank or a modified plank, your choice. Breathing here. And then dropping the knees if you haven't already for knees, chest and chin, keeping those elbows in close towards the rib cage, extending the legs all the way out, zipping up the mermaid tail, engaging the glutes, rolling back and up, the low cobra, or if you want to bring it up even a little bit higher, you can. Just be gentle on that low back. Exhale, pressing back to downward facing dog, however you get there. Either you go from tabletop to downward facing dog. One big breath here. Exhale, bend the knees a ton for that potential energy, and either hop or walk your feet up to meet your hands. Inhale, flat back position, hands on the shin or the floor. Exhale, that forward fold again. Inhale, all the way back up. Bring it back home. Great, and then we're coming into a balancing pose here. And we're gonna do the tree pose. So coming in and rooting down through the left foot here and bringing the right foot up to the inside of the left leg, okay? Make sure that it's not on the knee though. That can be really hard on the knee. So either it's above the knee or it's below the knee, either one. It can either be on the shin here, on the inside of the shin, or inside of the, what's that called? Your adductors. And then act as if that left or that right knee, try to bring it back towards the back of the room. Try to open that hip up. And remember that balancing is just part of the practice, and part of balancing is falling out of balance. And try to find something in the room that you can stare at. That's one thing that you can stare at that's not going to be moving for you. That'll help you find balance. So something that's not moving and bringing your concentration on that. And then if you'd like to play around, maybe you grow your tree branches, you sway in the wind. Whew, what kind of tree are you? Yoga should also be fun. That's my thought on it too. Great, and then bringing that right knee out in front of you. Can you balance out in front of you? And then can you clasp both hands around that knee, standing straight into that left leg? Great, and then slowly bringing it back down and coming for the other side. So right foot really plants down, left leg comes up and either goes to the inside of the shin, inside of the adductors here. Really working to open up that left hip, working the knee towards the back of the room here, standing tall and strong into that right foot. Finding the gaze on something that's not moving, either the floor in front of you, a spot on the floor, something. This is part of one of those 8 limbs of the concentration. Harnessing the mind. And all of those 8 limbs all the limbs are in prep to basically get you ready for meditation. And the asana, the movement practice that we're doing, and then bringing the knee out in front of you, clasping around the knee. But the asana practice is just to get you ready to sit in meditation traditionally. And then back down, finding Tadasana or the mountain pose. Feet together. Inhale, we're coming all the way up, arms up. Exhale, forward fold, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift position. Take a breath. Exhale, bend the knees a lot, potential energy. Send the legs back for another plank, and then send it up to downward facing dog. Great. Send the right leg all the way up, just like we did the left side. So can you keep that right hip down, right toes pointed towards the ground, right? Pressing back with the hands. And then how high can you lift that leg, but keep that hip lowered down? Take another breath here. Inhale, shifting forward, all the way forward on that left toes, on the balls of the toes here. And then really suck that right knee all the way up, right? Using those core muscles to bring that right foot between the hands, or using your hand to bring your foot up wherever that is, okay? Meet yourself wherever you are. And then lowering that left knee down to the ground. Taking a second to set up, just like we did on the other side. So all the points of contact on the floor to find the balance and to find your ground. Inhale, bringing it all the way up, arms above head, shoulders relaxed. And then we're not forward, but we're not back. We're stacked right over our hips here. Nice bend in that right knee. And breathe. Okay, bring the arms back down to frame that front foot. That right foot is still staying the same as it is. Left foot, you're gonna come up and bring the back of the leg up towards the room. Rotate on the ball of the foot. So we're turning that back foot out again. Look down before you come up and make sure that your front foot, your front heel is in line with that back arch. If it is, then you're good to go. And really find the ground through both those feet, not just your front leg, and then stand it up. Opening that left hip up. And then take a look, check it out. Can you see your big toes down on that right leg? And then bend in a little bit more. You don't want to be over, but you also don't want to be under. You want to be like right over your heel here. And then bring the arms up if you like. Warrior two. I love this pose. Rooting down through that back foot, back edge of that foot, pressing into the floor. Lifting from the pelvic region all the way up to support your upper body here. A couple more breaths here. There's not good lighting in this room, so only a bad thing. Great, and then keeping the legs just like they are, shift the upper body forward. So upper body shifts forward, reaches out as far as you can, and then that right arm comes down to the right leg, left arm reaches out and above. If you'd like to, you look up to the left arm and breathe, opening up that whole side body. One long line of energy from that left foot all the way out and up through those left fingertips. Inhale, coming back to warrior two, and then the reverse warrior. So left arm comes down the leg, right arm reaches up, and then notice how there's the tendency to want to straighten that right leg. Keep the legs, keep that right knee nice and bent, and then reaching out. and back. Windmill the arms back down around the foot to frame the foot. Step back to a plank position. Press it back to downward facing dog. Look between the hands. Hop or walk the feet to meet the hands. Flat back position. Exhale, forward fold. And then bend the knees a lot. We're going to come down to a seated position with the feet out in front of you. If you'd like, you can also grab your bolster again if you'd like to, or your little rolled mat if you want to, and put it under your hips. Helps me to be able to kind of reach my toes here. Legs straight out in front of you. And maybe you shake the legs out a little bit, because that was definitely a lot. Rotate the legs back and forth, just kind of shake them out. Ooh. Give a little pounding on the legs, on the thighs, if you want to. Great. And then finding the length here. So just sitting here. And I want you to notice, even with us just sitting like this is the same position that we were in for the flat back position, right? So we're already kind of folded forward, even though we don't think about it when we're sitting like this. But if I was standing on the ground, I'm in that flat back position. So be gentle with yourself about how far you can take this. So keeping the chest open, start walking your fingers forward with trying not to round, right? So see how far you can get before you round into it and fall into it. How far can you get by just rotating the hips, those hips forward again, kind of like we were with the fire log pose, right? So can you rotate the hips forward, which kind of gives you a little lift, and then keeping the chest open, and then maybe reaching for the shins or the feet, and then rounding for the pose, okay? And bending the knees as much as you'd like. Breathing here. Staying with your intention, staying with the practice, not rushing anything, plenty of time. And knowing that your 80-year-old self is thanking you right now, that you can bend over and tie your shoes. Your future self. Big inhale. Exhale, forward folding even more into it, finding the length, the relaxation. Great, coming back up, and as you come out, coming out of it, and then bend the left knee, and then bend the right knee opposite. So we're kind of sitting opposite. So the left foot is going to be kind of on that right thigh here. So, and if you're not able to sit, my sit bones actually don't sit completely down when I sit like this. It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have to be. And then you're going to twist to the left. Gentle twist to the left. If you'd like to, you can look over your left shoulder. Left arm comes behind you kind of as a little prop, as a little tripod prop on your fingertips. Great, and then switching the legs. So same thing, but just whoop, switch the legs. Sitting nice and tall, and then twisting to the right. And then making your way to your back comfortably for our final resting pose, Shavasana. Celebrating the fact that we made it through. This is one of my favorite poses. And it's the time that we just get to reap what we have sowed. So all the work and the movement that you've been doing and all the intention and the concentration now just kind of gets to fade, and we just get to reap the benefits of that. So important to let ourselves digest it, let our bodies and our minds digest it. Still body, still mind. Again, by moving your toes a little bit, rolling to one side or the other. Don't try to kind of jerk yourself up. Just roll to one side, like the fetal position. And as you're here, just kind of taking into consideration maybe the difference in how you feel than when you started. Maybe your body feels a little different, or your mindset is a bit different, maybe a little more relaxed. Just taking inventory of that. And then placing one hand in front of your face, press yourself up to a seated position, staying inward for a minute here, coming to a seated position. Bringing the hands together into heart center, if you'd like, that feels right to you. Thank you so much for co-creating this class with me and for showing up. And as I always say, you didn't just fortify yourself, you also fortified everybody else by showing up. And your 80-year-old self thanks you for that. So thank you so much. In celebration to all our queerness. Namaste. Bow forward if you'd like. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any too. Thank you. I feel like I could have done so much more. The hour went by so quickly. I was like, oh my gosh, it's already that time. Maybe next year I'll have to do it for an hour and a half or something. But yeah, thank you, everybody. And like I said, you can find me. I don't know how to actually do the link, but I did put it up there. But please add me on Instagram if you guys would like. And I also wanted to tell you, just since I'm here, that I am starting my bodywork practice again, which I'm super stoked about, doing massage. So if any of you are in need of bodywork, I have a place that I'm going to be having starting in actually this month. So I'll be there on Fridays. If any of you are looking for body work, I really want to work with other queer identified people, and especially people that are coming out of surgeries and need rehabilitation in that. So that's kind of what I specialize in. I do a lot of deep tissue and trigger point work. So I just thought I'd give that plug a little bit too, because I would be so excited to work with you guys. So let me know and pass on the message to your friends too, if you guys are needing body work. Yes, yes. And if you add me on Instagram, I will be posting stuff if I am going to be teaching some more queer bodied stuff, queer body beginners yoga. So I will let you know. I might be doing some in-person stuff throughout the summer. So keep posted. I'll keep you posted. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Silas. Really